I want to come on to direct costs. We now pay the European Union about £8 billion a year. That's our club subscription, if you like. Club subscription, 8 billion. That's over £1 million an hour. Every day, every hour of every day, of every week, of every month. £1 million an hour. We'll look at it another way. What constituency are we in here? Is this Bournemouth East?
West.
West, Bournemouth West. Bournemouth West loses about £500,000 a month to the EU. That is the amount of money that would be retained in this country and which would not necessarily directly benefit the people who live in this one constituency. £500,000 a month. And who benefits from all this largesse? Nobody. There is nothing the EU does for us that we could not have done for ourselves, and probably we would have done it a damn sight better.
And cheaper.
And cheaper. And quite the reverse. Not only are there no benefits, but we are damaged, seriously damaged by the effects of our membership. Farming, I've mentioned. Fishing. Employment, the legal system, defence, our borders, immigration, the list is endless. And then there's the cost of compliance, the cost which the EU chooses to ignore completely. It doesn't even understand what it is. And I'll give you an example of that in a moment. It now costs British industry, according to the CBI, something like £150 billion a year simply to enforce the regulations and rules which we are now governed by, which makes our 8 billion in direct costs mere chicken pea. And added together, it means the total cost to everyone in this country is now about £18 million an hour, or £300 an hour for every single one of us. That 150 billion adds to the costs of everything we make and supply to ourselves and to our customers abroad. And I will give you an example of just how utterly uncomprehending the Commission is. There is a regulation that says if you are trying to climb up a ladder of more than, I think it's 10 feet or thereabouts, you have to use scaffolding. It's to do with health and safety, isn't it? And I was assaulted by a number of small businesses in the construction industry, assaulted by letters, I mean, not physically, complaining bitterly at the costs that this was going to increase, not only to them, but to their customers. And what could be done about it? So again, I put down a written question and I ended up in an exchange of letters with Barroso himself. And I pointed out that one particular firm, they gave me the figures, they'd had to buy in a huge quantity of scaffolding and planking and all the rest of it, simply to comply with these new regulations. And of course it had put up the cost and the quotations they were offering to their customers, who were mostly after small jobs like re-roofing and re-guttering and that sort of thing. They were a small business. And they suddenly had this gigantic additional cost to carry. So I wrote to Barroso and I said, what do you think I should tell this man and his company and the people that he's likely to have to sack because of your new regulation? And he wrote me back a letter which again was truly astonishing, saying, well, of course he only has to buy the scaffolding once. It hadn't dawned on him that that cost is passed on to his customers. It hadn't occurred to him. And I had to spell it out. This man is in charge of the Commission, and I had to spell it out in words of one syllable. Do you not understand that you are putting up the costs to the customer the customers are going to say, do we really need to do this? And this man and his business and his employees are directly at risk. I did not get a reply to that letter. So we're talking about the politics of the madhouse, ladies and gentlemen. EU regulations are forced on us whether we want them or not, whether they are relevant and regardless of the consequences. There just might be a case for imposing regulations on our exports to our European neighbours, but at best that is 9% of our total economic activity, a mere 9%. They sell us far more than we have ever sold them. We are a global trading nation. We don't trade much with Europe compared with our trade across the Western world and the Anglo-Saxon world in particular. And yet those regulations are imposed on 100% of our businesses, whether we want them or not, and whether they do us any good or not.